4 cardinal rules of handgun safety is know my target, what is around and beyond it and all this stuff, and you tell me to pull the trigger when the sight's blurred, when the target's blurred. Because this is what naturally happens. When you're sighting in, your eyes naturally jump. Sights, target, sights, target, sights, target, sights, target. Right? Happens very, very quickly, over and over and over again. Sights, target, sights, target, sights, target. What I'm saying to you is when that weapon goes off, when it goes bang, your focus should be on that front sight. Alright? Your focus should have been back on that front sight when it goes off. Alright? I promise you, when you go out to the range and you guys look at it and you shoot and you see people, if this is your silhouette, this is your target, I'm your silhouette, and the rounds look like this, right? They're around and they're not in the target, you're staring at your target. You're staring at the target, the bull gate. Alright, that's what it's called. Any questions on that? Alright, there you go. And that's the other thing about your stance too. Yeah, I need to touch on. I was waiting to do it for here. Alright. If my stance is such that I have to bring my eyes down to the weapon, alright, I'm wrong. Your gun always comes to your eyes. Why is that? Why do I always bring the sights to my eyes, not my eyes to the sights? It's more comfortable. Plus it does this. If I'm cripping my neck or anything like that to see the sights, alright, what eventually happens? What's going through my neck? A lot of blood vessels, right? Right?
Yes, sir.
So what happens when I crimp my neck? It cuts off blood flow to a certain extent. Alright, so to a certain extent. So what that causes is eye fatigue. Alright? So your eyes, you can't focus. Alright? You bring the sights to your eyes, you don't have that as much. Depending on what weapon system you're shooting, you're not going to have that as much. So bring the sights to your eyes, especially when you're shooting a pistol. Alright? Everybody good with that?
Yes, sir.
Alright, trigger manipulation. This is the #1 problem for everybody not hitting when they're shooting. Myself included, trigger manipulation. Alright? You ever heard of jerking the trigger? Don't jerk the trigger, squeeze the trigger. Don't jerk the trigger, squeeze the trigger. Right? Probably 90% of your misses are trigger control. Whether you realize you're doing it or you're not, 90% of your misses don't or have something to do with trigger control. Alright? Anybody know how a press works? Anybody know how a press works? It's a piece of equipment, right? Press. Do both sides move or just one side moves? One side moves. Right? That's why it's called a trigger press. Alright? When I squeeze the trigger, this is what I'm talking about, y'all. When I squeeze the trigger, if I've got the weapon in my hand, the only thing that should be moving is my trigger finger. Right? That's the only thing that should be moving at all, is my trigger finger. Alright? But what happens, and what tends to happen, is you guys have your grip, and as you're squeezing the trigger, guess what you're doing? You're wrenching down on that grip. Right? So what does that cause? I want you to watch the gun. This is exactly what it causes. You see that? You see it pulling it off?
Yes, sir.
That's exactly what it does. So the only thing that should be moving is your trigger finger. So it should work just like a press. The trigger finger pressing straight to the rear. Okay? How much finger should you have on the trigger? Just a pad? You sure about that?
Yes, sir.
Positive.
Yes, sir.
You sure?
Yes, sir.
You know I'm asking for a reason, right? All right. This is the deal. Depending on what weapon system you're shooting, for pistols, I'm not talking about a rifle. A rifle, you are absolutely correct. All right. Pistols are give a whole nother animal. All right. On pistols and on rifles, but most of the pistols, depending on what you're shooting. Like I can tell you right now, those SIGs, those triggers have a lot more pounds on them. All right. It's probably twice what this Glock is. All right. So it's a lot harder to pull the trigger. Okay. So on a pistol, depending on how your trigger is set up, right, you can go anywhere from the pad all the way to right at that first little knuckle of your finger. All right. With that SIG, I promise you, you want to be at that first knuckle. That's how heavy your trigger is compared to some other guns. Your M9 Berettas are not going to be like that. All right. So just pay attention. It's whatever you're most comfortable with. All right. Everybody good with that?
Yes, sir.
All right. So trigger pull is a nice, easy squeeze to the rear until the weapon goes off. It should what almost when it goes off? Surprise you, right? Okay, so y'all have heard a little bit of this before, right? So it should surprise you when it goes off. Slow, steady squeeze, squeeze. Boom, it just went off. All right? Weapon just went off. Where does my trigger finger need to stay? To the rear, why is that? No clue.
You don't want to pull it again, sir.
Say what?
You don't want to pull it again.
No. This is what happens. You hold that trigger to the rear, the weapon's cycling. Alright? It's going to help you stabilize the cycle a little bit. Plus, this is, I don't care what kind of handgun you have, this is going to be your case. Once that thing has started settling back down, right, and you're trying to evaluate what's going on with your target, you ease that trigger out. Did y'all hear that? Y'all hear that click?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what just happened? Does anybody know? The trigger reset. The trigger reset. Alright? Guess what I just did with my next trigger pull? I shortened it by about half with a Glock. Alright? I shortened it by about half with a Glock. For your M9s, alright, it goes from double action on your first pull sometimes to single action on your next pull. Alright? And I'm going to explain what double action and single action are in a second. Alright? It goes from double action to single action. So your trigger pull is going to be a lot shorter, alright, on the next one. But you have to make sure you let that trigger out enough to where it resets and you can hear it and feel it. I don't care if you are shooting on the range, you can hear it and feel it. Alright? Because if it doesn't reset and you pull the trigger again, guess what happens? Nothing. It won't do nothing. And then you're going to turn around to your instructor and go, something's wrong with this. Right? And you're going to have a bad day. Alright? So, this is what it also keeps you from doing when you hold that trigger to the rear. Alright? I hold that trigger to the rear, it's cycling, it's settling back out. I ease it back out. If I'm easing it out, what am I less likely to do? Jerk it on the next one. It helps all the way around with my trigger control. Alright? Because this is the deal. What you don't want to do is pull the trigger, and as soon as that thing goes off, your finger come out here. Right? Because your next trigger pull is going to come from all the way out here, and it's not going to slow down, and it's going to look like this. Alright? Hold your trigger, weapon goes off, bang, hold the trigger to the rear, weapon's going to start settling down, ease it back out to the reset, and then squeeze one off again if you need to. Everybody good with that?
Yes, sir.
You can shoot fast like that, I promise you. I promise you can shoot fast like that. Alright? It's not going to slow your shooting down, but it is going to slow your trigger manipulation down to the point where you can be more accurate. It's going to keep you from jerking the trigger a lot of times. Everybody good with that?
Yes, sir.
So if you're on the range and you guys, so about I'd say 99.9% of y'all are right-handed, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're on the range and you guys are shooting, and the rounds are down here on the silhouette, right? They're down and to the left or down and to the right. What are you doing? I tell you right now, I can look at your target and tell exactly what fundamental you're screwing up. Remember when I said if you're all around the silhouette like this, you're staring at the target? If you're down to the left or the right, depending on if you're a right-handed shooter or a left-handed shooter, you're jerking the trigger. Telltale sign. All right? Your impacts are down in here, you're jerking the trigger. All right, follow through. All right, this is something that you guys might not hear, or it might get called something else. All right? So follow through is called finishing the shot. When I pull the trigger, bang, the weapon's settling back down, I'm still up on my target, right? The weapon's done settling, where should it settle at? The last point I was at where I pulled the trigger. It should settle back down into the same exact spot if I got a good shooting platform and I'm in a good position. All right? It should settle down in the exact same spot. All right? So, what it helps me do is get ready for my next shot. But before I shoot again, what do I need to do? If I'm in a combat situation, y'all, and I just shot this dude and it went through his head and he's dead, do I need to shoot him again?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, if I'm shooting at a target and we're out there on the range and I'm telling you to shoot a target, and then after you shoot that target, go to the next target and shoot it, right? Do you have to keep shooting at the same target over and over again? If I'm out here, and me personally, I get in a shooting situation out here on the street, and I pull the trigger, and I stop the person, is there any reason why I should shoot him again?
No, sir.
No. So follow through is just that. Setting your weapon back out and evaluating what you need to do next, whether I need to pull the trigger again or not. Or do I need to find another target? Do I need to move on to the next target? Or I should be scanning looking for other targets. Everybody good with that?
Yes, sir.
So follow through is nothing more than evaluating what you just did, what happened, what do I need to do next. All right, breathing. All right, some of that's cut off. How important is breathing when you're shooting? I know all y'all gonna do. It's extremely important, Sergeant. It's the most important thing in the world. It's more important than life. All right. Here's the deal. When you guys are shooting a rifle, when you're shooting a distance, breathing is very, very important. It's very, very important. When you're shooting a handgun, it is important, but a lot less. All right. Unless I just went out there, and for me, I'm probably more out of shape than a lot of y'all. So if I ran from here to the door and I had to shoot somebody, I'm breathing like this, and my weapon system is doing this every time I inhale and exhale, is that a problem?
Yes, sir.
Right. And like I said, I'm out of shape. That probably would be me up there, right? Doing it. The weapon going up and down. All right. My breathing is not like that. All right. It's not very exaggerated. Hey, I'm good with that. Do not hold your breath when you're shooting. Okay. Like I said, we're not talking about rifles. We're not talking about making a 1,000-yard shot or 500-yard shot or whatever you want to do. All right. We're talking about pistol shooting. What's the maximum effective range on this pistol? You guys know? What is it? 10 yards. Dude, you're out of your mind. So, what you got? Right here.
75 yards?
75? You think you that good?
No.
Alright. So, hey, here's the deal. Here's the deal. Unless something changed, sir, correct me if I'm wrong, the maximum distance they're going to be shooting on the range is probably about 25 yards, right? Alright. 25 yards. I promise you guys are going to get on the 3-yard line and you'll be like, man, I'm awesome. I'm awesome. I'm hitting what I shoot at every time. I'm the man. You get back 25-yard line, you'll be crying. Like, well, I don't know what happened, sir. Right? 25 yards is about it. Is about it for most people. All right? Unless you're really, really good. For the average shooter, you're looking at 20 yards and in. All right? For the average pistol shooter. All right? About 20 yards and in. Somebody's average. All right? On a man-sized target. I'm not talking about bullseye. I'm talking about man-sized target. All right? If you're really good and you're really good at your fundamentals, you could probably stretch it out to about 50, depending on what you're shooting. All right? But that's pretty much it on a handgun. Now, when you're up there, like I said, don't hold your breath, because this was it's gonna do the same exact thing that I talked about earlier. What's gonna start happening is just like with your grip, you're gonna start shaking because your muscles are gonna get tired. And your eyes are gonna get tired, and your shooting's gonna go to crap. All right? So, breathe normally. All right? You can slow it down a little bit. You can try to find a natural respiratory pause. But if I'm up here and I've got a good shooting platform, all right, and I'm aimed in, I can pretty much hold this thing straight, right? I mean, I'm talking to y'all, right? Am I breathing when I'm talking?
Yes, sir.
You sure? I breathe when I talk? Y'all positive? Is the weapon going all around and going crazy? It's going everywhere? Right? Do you think I can get what I shoot at?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did I just prove it to you? You don't have to hold your breath?
Yes, sir.
All right. So that's my little stance on breathing. All right. Stay away from this unless you're doing some long range rifle stuff. If you're in sniper school or something like that, you'll be doing a little bit of that. All right. You'll be doing some similar things. Other than that, breathe normally. All right. Everybody good with that? Any questions on that? Anybody? Yes, guy. All right, gotcha. All right. So I'm gonna skip this right here, drawing presentation, because you guys aren't gonna be doing that. All right, weapons malfunctions. Here's the deal. We talked about malfunctions earlier about failure to feed, failure to fire. All right. So, what's your immediate action with a semi-automatic handgun if you pull the trigger and it goes click? What's the first thing you do? I just pulled the trigger, it went click. What do I need to do? I need to get my booger finger off the trigger, right? Put your finger off the trigger. Tap the magazine, all right? Because I promise you, it will not feed unless that magazine is fully inserted. All right? Tap the magazine, rack your weapon, and get ready to what? Get ready to fire again, right? So, I know a lot of you guys will hear it, and I know Gunny heard it, and I'm sure Academy has too, tap, rack, bang, right? That got beat in my head for years. Tap, rack, bang, tap, rack, bang. I went to police academy, they said, what do you do? I said, tap, rack, bang. They said, absolutely not. They said, just because you tap and rack don't mean you can bang. And I said, okay. So it's tap, rack, ready for us, all right? So, tap, rack, get ready to fire, all right? Everybody good to go with that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Can you imagine when I say double feed, what a double feed is? Anybody know?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man.
2 rounds have been fed into the chamber.
Right. Chamber's kind of stuck up on 2 rounds. Something's all jacked up with it. All right. Something's all jacked up with it. Now this is the problem. It's definitely not going to shoot like that, is it?
No, sir.
All right. That is absolutely a problem. It's not going to shoot like that. All right. So how do I clear it? All right. It says up here, which is great, that you need to lock the slide to the rear, drop the magazine, rack the slide back and forth to clear the chamber, insert a new magazine, rack the slide, and get ready to fire. Right? That sounds complicated as hell, doesn't it? But here's the problem. Here's the problem with this. Depending on what kind of double feed you have, you might not be able to lock the slide to the rear. Right? Depending on what kind of double feed you have, you will not be able to lock the slide to the rear. So this is what I will tell you. First thing you need to do, get your finger off the trigger, try to lock the slide to the rear. If you cannot lock the slide to the rear, pull the magazine out. If you cannot lock the slide to the rear, go straight to the magazine and get the magazine out. All right? What does that do? Anybody know? No. It relieves the pressure off of the slide so that you can lock it to the rear. Because that thing's getting pressure from 3 different ways when it double feeds. The slide's pushing forward into the chamber. Sometimes sometimes you got something caught in the chamber and it's holding in, and you got pressure from the bottom of the magazine. All right. So if you cannot lock the slide to the rear, get the magazine out, and you want to rack this thing at least 3 times. All right. Magazine out. All right. Lock the slide to the rear. Insert a fresh magazine, because what I talked about earlier. Your problem could be your magazine. So, insert a fresh mag, rack it, and get ready to go. Anybody have any questions on it? Immediate action is what?
Tap, rack, ready.
Tap, rack, ready. Double feeds, I need to what first?
Lock the slide.
Lock the slide to the rear. If I can't do that, what do I do?
Release the magazine.
Get the magazine, and then lock the slide, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Remove the ammunition from the gun, right? Get it out of there. How many times do I need to rack the slide to make sure it's clear?
3 times.
3 times, sir.
3 times. All right. Lock the slide to the rear. Insert a what magazine?
Fresh magazine.
New magazine. Get the slide forward and get ready to go. Everybody good with that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Pretty simple. All right. You will get this over and over again, I'm sure, on the range. All right. I will tell you this much. All right. If you guys do even 3/4 of what we talked about today, you'll be all right. All right, you'll be all right. Okay. The most important thing is not hurting yourself and not hurting one of your fucks. Okay. If you walk away from the range, even if you didn't qualify because you're a non-shooter, right? Even you walk away from the range and you did not qualify, did you hurt yourself or did you hurt somebody else? Right? You didn't do those two things, you're all right. Okay? You're all right. All right. Pay attention to what's going on. Don't lose focus. All right? That's when accidents happen. Stay focused. Pay attention to what's going on with your weapon system. Okay? Pay attention to what condition you have it in. All right? I carry this thing around all the time in condition 1, which is what, y'all? Ready to fire, right? Magazine in, round in the chamber, ready to go. Do you think people have a habit of getting complacent with that?
Yes, sir.
Because I'm with it every day of my life. I'm with it. All right. Pay attention to what you're doing, and you'll be okay. Weapon safety, weapon safety, weapon safety. If you don't have this on the trigger, it's not going to do what?
Fires.
It's not going to go off. It shouldn't. All right. Everybody good with that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right. Pay attention to your fundamentals. Your stance. What's the most important thing?
Comfortable,
Be
sir.
comfortable, be able to move. All right, be comfortable and be able to move. If you can only see one sight, what do you need to see?
Front sight, sir.
Front sight. Do I jerk the trigger?
No, sir. No, sir.
Press it to the rear, right?
Yes, sir.
Slow, steady, easy. All right? And knock it out of the park. I know you guys can. It's fun. All right? I'd go to the range every day if I could. And my department don't have that much money and I'm not that rich. All right? So, please be careful, be safe. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to get up with me. Gunny's got my contact information. All right? I'm easy to find. I'm on the website. All right? I'm the only person with my last name on the police website, right? If you go to the university directory, you type in DYE, DYE, there's only going to be a couple of people coming up, and I'm the only one who works at the police department. All right? If you guys have any questions, anything, just please let me know. I'll be happy to get back with you and help you out. All right?
Yes, sir.
Everybody good?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Any questions? I know I ran through that pretty quick, and I might have scrambled some brains because I saw a lot of pens flying and notes being taken. All right. If y'all need anything, please get back with me and let me know. Y'all be safe out there, okay?
All right, sir.